Jeannie Ralston, and as somebody said, of course I know who you are. It's because I put my face everywhere. It's so shameless. But this is our first salon event in New York, and it's actually the first salon event that we've live streamed, because everyone wants to know about Barbara. This is why I have Barbara today. Barbara Lippert, when she writes something, people read it. The piece you wrote about Kim Kardashian and Marilyn Monroe just went through the roof, because you just had such a great take on everything, and you had everything come. You brought all these strands together of our society, which was fabulous. So Barbara Lippert she's written for all kinds of New York Magazine, all the any magazine that Condé Nast. That you used to see on a newsstand, but you now see on the screen. She's written for she was a regular columnist for Ad Week about advertising and media, criticism, media critic and ad critic, and she was a regular on CBS doing their advertising commentary, and she's now adding NextTribe to that very esteemed list of So we're lucky we're going to have it a couple times a month, where she can give her take on what's going on in society and culture and entertainment and whatever she wants. Whatever she wants to talk about.
That's a nice assignment.
But I just thought, I wanted her to talk today, because you have so much insight into like what's going on in entertainment and in media. We have a TV and film Facebook group, and when you comment, you have such great insight into what's going on in there. And she also today hosted a virtual event for us when we talked about the social dilemma,
right,
which was really great.
Yeah.
And nothing that we talked about, or nothing that the social dilemma
brought up.
Brought up. Nothing's been solved. It's just gotten worse.
Exactly.
They tried. So I wanted her to talk to us today about some of the shows that are on now that we're enjoying, and also like what's going on with it seems like it's a great time at least on TV, and that's one of my questions, for women, and especially older women. So I wanted to talk about that too. So I guess I'll just start out. I want to find out what you're watching and what you're loving right now, and why.
Well, particularly at this time when America is a woman-hating, extremist, dystopian train wreck. I'm enjoying a lot of train wreck shows, and it seems to be a lot of con men, a lot of con women, also a lot of murderers. So that seedy side, is really appealing to me right now. But I wanted to start out with Hacks, because it just started its second season, and the first 2 episodes are so great. I thought they were better than the first season. Hacks, AJ, and it's Gene Smart, and something that I can relate to, which seems very contemporary, is that she's navigating waters, having been a giant star in Las Vegas for years and signed to a hotel, losing that contract and not knowing whether she has a place in the culture anymore. Her jokes aren't landing. They're very old school punchline, set up punchline. And she's feeling very rejected, even though she was very sexy and hot, she's feeling rejected by men for older women and rejected by people who would hire her. And I can relate.
That's the character?
Yes, Gene Smart. At the same time, she's a little more like my mother's generation in the Joan Rivers part of it, but her humanity really comes through. And her foil is this young woman, Ava, who she hires to punch up her jokes and make them more millennial. And this Ava is just like this doom-stricken lesbian, downtrodden, just exasperating character. Like Debbie Downer has a lot of sparkle compared to her. And so they were very funny to work off each other. And last year it was very, very tough to watch some of these scenes. But slowly they're getting used to each other. And it's like will they or won't they? Not that they just accept those parts of each other that they hate? And will they just come to some kind of agreement? And, you know, I thought that the opening part of it was really great. She has this screwed up junkie daughter who's now straight, Jean Smart does. And she married this MMA fighter, which is, oh my God. And
what does MMA stand for?
Martial arts.
It's not boxing.
No, it's
No.
worse.
It's like every sport.
Yeah.
I watched one of the episodes. There's no boxing.
Yeah, they just kill each other. And so her daughter says, actually says, it's like I'm a military wife. And she really can't stand this guy and doesn't want her daughter to have an IVF baby with him, and they just met and all that. But she goes to watch it because he calls her mom and really wants to be part of her family. And she shows up, and they won't let her through the VIP door. She has to walk in the heat all around. And then her ex-boyfriend, who owns the hotel, who dropped her, is there with a much younger, attractive woman. And, you know,
actually, she's not younger.
Oh, well,
right.
She's age appropriate. She says
that's a problem.
Yeah, but she's not really age appropriate. She's 40, so she's age appropriate.
That's sort of what gets you.
Yeah. And they also, you know, this really jerk of a guy got her contract, and they welcome him, and she's just feeling awful. And her son-in-law meanwhile is getting the shit beat out of him. And everybody knew that there'd be no contest and that he would lose, and the audience was screaming terrible things at him, and he's like underneath getting slammed. And so she walks up there, and she's really projecting her own thing on him, and starts screaming at him, "You get up, you show them, you go kill him." You know, because
it's kind of like what Ava told her.
Yeah, yes, because you're a dance now. Yeah, and so she decides to go back on the road, and you know, there are all these subplots and everything, but and very funny characters. But I think it's the only show now that shows this intergenerational stuff that is, you know, really accurate, I think. And it also shows the sheer humanity of both of them. And the actress who plays Ava has gotten so much better. She can really hold her own now against Jean Smart. And she's, you know, we like her much more this year. And she happens to be Lorraine Newman's daughter. Right? Yeah. You know, right? Yeah. But the thing is, there have been all these articles about nepotism, and you know, she's great. She's perfect for the part. My son was a stand-up in LA and knew her for years and said he never even knew who her mother was, and that she was really talented and took a lot of risks. So
that's ridiculous.
I know. And that's
really women at this point.
So yeah. So that, and then even my son said, you know, all of these people have gotten, you know, jobs through some sort of, not as extreme where their parents are well known, but just by being, you know, in that upbringing. So, and then because they need to flesh out the articles, they bring up Lena Dunham and Girls, which was also a really important show, I think, for when it came out, and was also very hard to love.
Yes,
It was hard to watch in a really good way.
And she's, you know, because, you know, she shows herself naked, she shows herself as really obnoxious and self-involved, and I think she's a genius. I thought the shows were great. And it really had nothing to do with the fact that her father is a well-known painter and her mother is a well-known photographer. I don't see, you know, in the film business and in television, you know, they're not writing her scripts and selling them and all that. She's done that with an incredible amount of bravery. Okay, so on to another show. I had never heard of this, and that's weird. Couples therapy.
Oh my God.
At first, I thought it was like in treatment. And I loved in treatment, but I started watching it. It's in the 3rd season now, so I missed all of that. But it's on Showtime, and I started watching, and I thought to myself, and by the way, the psychoanalyst has a gorgeous office, very similar to this. And I started thinking, oh my God, who writes this? Where did they find these actors? They don't look familiar. This is so great. And it turns out that it's a documentary. And they actually cast these people who are super articulate and willing to act this out on camera. And it's 4 different couples, and they really let it all out and go through a lot. And they show the psychotherapist then talking to her group, you know, to get a better idea of how to treat them. And I love anything with a psychotherapeutic bent. But this is really great. I can't wait to watch the rest of them. There's, I mean, real characters with real lives and so interesting.
But who would go on there in couples therapy? Who would go?
May I say something?
Yes.
They had ads up in my neighborhood. They put flyers up saying, "Do you want to be part of it?" And I thought, "Wow, do we?" And I was like, "No way." But then I was like, "Well, I would like to be on TV."
You know, maybe some of them decided that they would announce that they're in trouble when they weren't. I don't know, but the stories are remarkable. And so that was incredibly powerful.
Is it all heterosexual?
No, there's a gay, there's 2 women. Every season there's at least 1 gay couple. And it's also, you know, an Asian woman and a white guy and a black couple, and you know, it's all mixed.
And what about anybody our age, couples our age?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, because, at this age, you know, you just don't want to hold on if you're fed up.
Well,
right? If you're raising children, there's a reason to try and fix it, right? So the third one, and this is super, super depressing, but really gripping too, is Under the Banner of Heaven. It's based on a John Krakauer nonfiction book about this hideous murder of a woman and her baby in the Mormon culture. And Andrew Garfield plays this sort of character who's the detective, but he's also a Mormon. So he's really fighting for his own, you know, for his own belief system and how he can incorporate people who do this in it. And I think it's wonderful because the more shows we have, even though this took place in 2003, the more shows we have about extremist cult religions who are patriarchal, the better we can talk about it and understand it. So, which gets me on another subject that I'm steamed about. Let me just go. And that is, like, I was just talking with Jenny about this, as a matter of fact. TCM has all these shows with, you know, families with 9 children and 12 children and everything. And if you recall from like 2005, whatever, the Duggars, it started out at 16 and counting, 17 and counting, 18 and counting, 19. And they made the media rounds on every show, and all these hosts said, "Oh, your children are so well behaved." And they all performed, and they were all homeschooled, and they all dressed modestly. And it's a quiverful, is this evangelical cult that they all belong to. And it turns out that the eldest son had been sexually molesting his younger sisters for years. Right. And they covered it up because they wanted the money from the show.
This was the Duggars?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it gets worse. And so I do remember at the time that the way they resolved it, and this was fine with TCM, was that they sent him to a family friend who was a sheriff to do counseling. Yeah. So he got great counseling, so much counseling, so that he was arrested for child porn after that. And he's also, I think he ran for something. He's a right-wing fanatic who, guess what, doesn't want abortion, gay marriage, you know, any of that. So all of these people, you know, they normalize these people on these reality shows. And now there's one like fun with the doubling down with the Doricos, and it's this family that has quadruplets and triplets and twins. And again, you know, it's their prayer sessions and their belief system. And, you know, a lot of women who are home and all of these like online moms really want to be part of these huge, large families that all dress together and all seem so perfect. And like, I think, you know, that they they should not be allowed to do this. It's really propaganda. And when you think, if this was all pre-Trump, and so it's really recognizable now, you know, what the MAGA stuff that he's doing.
Even that Steve Bannon was watching the show.
Audience. Steve Bannon, yeah. Yeah, he thinks any educated women are lesbians. You know, and again, it's all about these sexual Well, I did look a little bit into, you know, because we have all these streaming shows, isn't it a much better, more progressive time for television? We can have more, you know, really unique storytellers really telling their stories rather than network programs.
Right.
And the numbers for women have gone up, but like not even in the double digits.
Really?
And even though these shows, a lot of them, you know, have producers or showrunners or writers who are women, it's still not enough to really break barriers and change the numbers.
What's going to take?
And we're going to, there are more Black characters in programming on the networks than there are in these streaming shows. And that goes for Latinos too. And but the really important thing is for women to be gatekeepers. Once they get a show that they're running, they hire women cinematographers, directors, writers, whereas men don't. So then these women get a chance, you know, for their resumes to, you know, go on in the industry. So that is happening more. But the story really isn't that encouraging, even though it would seem that it's a lot more progressive.
What's it? You've got Nicole Kidman and Reese Witherspoon producing things. Aren't women already becoming protagonists in stories much more? Or
about women our age. Well, I don't know if this was the networks or something, but over 60 characters, 7% are men and 4% are women. I don't know about streaming shows, but still, you know, with a couple of notable shows, you know, Frankie.
Frankie.
Yeah.
So why is that if it's not advertising? Because like in magazines, that's why most people have goodies because they were thought background or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So why in TV would that be? So people do watch TV.
I don't know. It's something that, you know, we really have to look into.
Yeah.
well, it sounds like Hacks though. She's
Yes.
that's an exception.
Yes,
we
that's
have,
a great
and
exception.
we have Grace and
That's over.
Grace and Frankie, but it's over. But what did you think of?
Well, I thought it was really great, but from the beginning, I was mystified because it was so apparent to me that the women should have been the romantic couple and the men, forget it. We can't see them as a couple at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
She had an impossible time selling that. I heard her speak recently that even though she had done, I think it was Friends before that,
Yes.
and was well known,
Yeah.
she had an impossible time selling it, and she had an impossible time getting them to keep the storyline as close to focused on the women as she did. So.
And there are some other like Australian or English shows that I love that featured older characters like Les Pango and
Oh, I love Les Pango.
And also one of the daughters was Sarah Lancashire, who is now Julia Child. Yes.
Julia Child, and she's in Happy Valley.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And Australian, I mean, it got a little corny, but Australian Offspring about an entire family.
It's so good.
And
their
parents,
I loved almost.
yeah, and the parents are old hippies who just want to have sex. And you know, the kids are totally embarrassed by them and have to go on with their own lives.
And Nicole, what's her name? Who's in everything?
Nicola
Walker.
Oh, I love her.
She's in everything.
Yeah.
What about? I mean, so there's that great in Fleabag. There's
Fleabag, that is a seminal show. Also, I love that, and that's
But there's that great monologue by Kristen Scott Thomas. Remember
yes,
that?
yes, at the bar.
Yes.
She's absolutely the best.
What's the monologue?
Do you remember the? I mean, it was just like.
It was like fuck you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Yeah, but she is so brilliant. It was so good. I just ate it
I
up.
know. I want that to come back. But she also did Killing Eve, right?
Right.
But
she
you
was
know,
a
the
show
chair that Sandra Oh is in.
Yeah.
The first
And that
season
got-
was great.
And the emphasis.
Really? I watched
I
it so much.
Really?
I thought it was so.
Okay, so we have a disagreement about Sandra Oh in
No, Sandra always
but
wonderful.
about the show.
I just thought the script was terrible.
Really?
I loved it.
I loved it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I did want.
Maybe I didn't watch it that good. Because I do, given that we have this Niagara of content, I do tend to like just start on something and then not finish it and go to something that's newer. But also, did anyone see Glow? That was great.
I love
Yeah.
Okay,
that
tell
was
us
great.
about Glow for people who haven't seen it. What's it about?
female boxers.
It's one of those like 70s porn areas. Wrestlers. Like this guy had nothing to do with it. He was this horrible guy with the mustache and
The porn mustache.
And Barbara Lippert tried to like get them into shape as a wrestling team.
To take it seriously.
To take seriously.
And they all have real lives.
Yeah.
And it takes place in the 70s, like Minx.
Oh, right.
So it was definitely familiar in that there seems to be a real 70s survival. I guess it's long enough ago that it seems historical.
I know.
I think that's
And if you've been there already, you're like the fashion. What do you think of the fashion from that?
Well, I mean,
I guess it's
polyester. Yeah,
It's
polyester.
bad.
It's interesting.
What's interesting?
the fashion 70s.
Yeah, but also it was such a time when men were disgusting and leery, but women were also
Becoming worse and worse.
Yeah, exactly. But women were also thinking, now they can have sex with each other. So it was a weird time. Did you write Crazy Time? Yes.
Well, what is it?
But but that's is pretty. It's another one that I started watching and wrote about, and then I stopped watching.
I want to watch it.
But because it's this woman who, sort of wants to work at Ms., but then it turns out that she works for a publisher, the only one who would put her magazine out if it included nudes of men, like cheesecake.
Is it Nix, like MX?
M-I-N-S.
Oh, M-I-N.
That's the name
That's
of
the name of her magazine.
And that's the name of the magazine. And apparently there were porno movies named Minx. Yeah. So everything was porno adjacent in those days.
It's funny.
Well, did you watch,
If not downright.
Did you watch the show that I was very fond of, that I forgot to watch the last season? Pamela Adel.
Adlon.
Yeah.
I know. It's on my list. I know it's great.
they just
Yeah.
last
Millions.
season.
Yeah.
There are.
But I will say for older women, I think Korean grandmothers are having their moment. In movies. Korean grandmothers, so many hit movies from and Asian grandmothers. And I think it's because no matter what they do or say, it's not as much of a hurtful cliche as if they showed American women, because we know the difference. But here we're interested in the other culture and the role they have. So we give them the benefit of the doubt.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I want to know, you said we have a fire hose of content. And I think, like, how did this all happen? We grew up with 3 networks, we grew up and going to movies. Now we have so much content. And how did that happen? And are people making money? How?
Well, right now with the stock market, Netflix just had this terrible,
Down like
Yeah.
60%.
But they were like tech companies. These companies starting content, who are, so there's Apple and Hulu and
Prime.
Prime and Amazon and Showtime and HBO really started it for people to pay for special television.
And so that was, are we still in the golden age of television? The golden age of television officially start with like Sopranos and
Right, and and Breaking Bad and The Wire.
We're at the end of that.
And across Mad Men,
oh
of
yeah.
course, and 6 Feet Under. So that was a long time ago, the golden age. Now I don't know what we would call it.
It's shaky out.
Yeah, the shaky age.
People are mostly over cable. Cable is withering and about to go.
Yeah,
People
so
just
it's
want
all
streaming.
Yeah,
But the streaming
but then you have to pay for each one.
Yeah, no, so
Yeah.
plus it's getting broken up. It's getting broken up. So like right now when we on our TV and film Facebook group, you'll suggest something and the first thing they want to, where can I see it? And then you have to like, oh no, I don't have that. I have this, I have that.
Yeah.
My son, I know my sons and I, we share, like they have to, so that they can put it, and then we share the passwords.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
And they all have these deals where you I sign up and they say you can cancel in a month, but of course I never do.
Yeah,
Of course. I have like every possible streaming platform.
Yeah.
But I just have an
Amex.
But I said $20, we'll cover $20 a month.
Yeah, and so other companies are also covering it.
Yeah, it's weird.
Any of them or all of them?
so it's all,
No,
it's all
but the
based on
cable
like
companies
things.
are now
Yes, it's all,
streaming.
it's all in a state of flux, and Netflix flux especially, but I find, if I really, I don't feel like looking around, if I just put on Netflix, I'll find something.
Right.
And the Diaries of Andy Warhol, speaking of the 70s, were fantastic.
Oh, wasn't that fantastic?
I do not even remember seeing that.
I
Anybody else?
haven't seen that.
Yeah. And there's something else that I watched. I find, watching documentaries on there. Oh, can I talk about The Staircase?
Yes.
Thank you. So it's this fucked up guy named Michael Peterson who is so he's such a sociopath and he's so creepy. And the story with The Staircase is that one woman ended up dead in Germany, and he took in her daughters. And she was killed under very, very murky circumstances. Nobody knows. And then he got back here and he had this weird blended family and he met this woman and she moved into his big house in North Carolina and they blended all the families and the kids. And then 10 years later, 11 years later, she's found dead at the bottom of the staircase.
Okay, let me say one thing about that. Let me just say one thing about this. I'm obsessed with The Staircase. HBO has taken the drama of it and done a docudrama with actors and
I have something to say about separate.
And I said, why was I watching this when I know
you watched two
real
other
doc
documentaries
is on Netflix?
Right.
All of it, which I've already seen. So I watched just this weekend. I sat and watched it on Netflix from the beginning to the end.
Oh, it's sick.
The movie
stomach turning. But
He's
there's a
innocent.
story.
Totally innocent.
Oh, he's not innocent. Did an owl come into the house? Can I talk about that? I'd like to talk about the owl. Okay, one of the theories is that an owl killed her.
Wait a second.
In both cases?
No.
That didn't even come up.
Let me just mention something I want to talk about. So,
That's a good one.
so this French company did a documentary, and the first part came out 10 years ago when the first trial was, and they gave them open access to the whole family, and the guy who killed his wife he just loves it. He's all over the camera, making love to the camera. He's really charismatic and charming, and he's so creepy. And then the daughters that he raised are bots that are attached to him because they've been so traumatized. They've lost two mothers, and they think he's innocent, and they have to. And he has two sons, and it turns out that his son also went to jail, one of them, because he has some violence in his background. This guy is a sociopath who's hiding everything and has violent tendencies. Anyway, so then the documentary people came back now because the case was re-examined. He was in jail for 7 years, and they were back.
That many of the experts of the state lie.
Right. Okay. But that's not. Yeah. No. it turns out that, so they made a new documentary series that's on Netflix now, in addition to the original series. But, so the guy who ran the documentary series sold the rights to his documentary to the person making the fictitious version of it. And now the guy who made the documentary is outraged that this guy tricked him and lied to him, which is what everybody in the documentary says. And he sold the rights, and he's really mad at the fictional part.
Okay,
of it.
wait,
so-
that doesn't have to do with the actual.
Okay, let's stop.
I know, but that's a television.
Let's explain, because I'm confused. So it's based on a real case.
It's a North Carolina.
Okay, so the staircase is it on?
There are two versions. So there's the original documentary from his first trial, like 10 years ago.
But it
There's
goes
a new
beyond that.
And the new documentary starts like 4 years ago and goes to the present, I
And
guess.
isn't the real.
And then there's a fictional. No, that's the real.
Oh, the real-
That's the
yeah.
real people. Then there's a fictional version.
Okay.
There's a fictional version that the documentary guy hates. But what they're saying is that during the course of the documentary, the film editor, who is a woman, had an affair with Michael Peterson.
Right.
And he is so grotesque that, her judgment really, never mind, how her professional
But what
is.
about the prejudice and the lying?
Well, he lied about being, as he calls it, bisexual.
Who cares?
Nobody cares except that he's in the closet about so many secrets. And he
Have you
claims that
seen
his
him
wife.
post his 8 years in jail?
Anyway, this is not television. Okay.
But it is fascinating. It does give me an idea of the documentaries being such a big draw now.
Yes.
Documentaries, and that's a new development. I think.
Yes, and then I mentioned in my piece about the Maryland documentary, which is so sad. It isn't terribly definitive, but the voices, it captures those voices from that time when Ben said, we had a black book, you understand, that kind of stuff where you can hear them talking about it. So
This is on now, this documentary?
yes,
You said
No,
it's not the
no,
old
that's
one
another
about
one.
the teacher.
This is a new one by the guy who wrote a book in the 70s, and he's releasing all of his tapes of interviews, like 500 interviews that he did at a time.
Wait, this is
Well,
Maryland?
most of those
Yes.
people are dead now, so he has all on tape.
Is that why he's releasing them now, because people are dead and they didn't
Yes.
want it?
Yes.
Want it?
Yes.
Okay, so we need to, what's the name of that one? Because that.
The Maryland something.
The Maryland tapes.
The Maryland tapes, yeah.
Probably watch
Yeah.
it tonight.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna stay up all night tonight. Watching everything. Now we can't
Oh, no,
sleep.
I did. I never did. I just thought it's gonna be like, we have, all of the con women, like, the woman, well, we have the dropout, Inventing Anna, and We Crashed, and Tinder Swindler.
Oh my God.
It's a great time for con people.
And let's talk about in the context of what's going on in society. Why is that it's because they've been celebrated in real life? I mean, we've lost all of our.
No, well, in the case of the Tinder Swindler, I think it's because it was all online, so it's all available, and all of these women wanted to talk, and it's such an outlandish story that everybody can relate to.
When Tiger King worked, and so everybody went around and said, well, what can we do?
What could be gross?
And in the boldest country, women as victims had gotten so old. And
Yes, so these women, got after, and also the vegan,
That
what
vegan.
the vegan.
Oh
vegan-
my God.
Yes. That was so
all
strange
of
to
them,
me. Her character is so strange. Talk about a strange victim. She was hugely successful as a restaurateur.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
what's
we
great
all
about
know.
Fiction is it's almost all her talking to the camera.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just very extraordinary.
Yeah, but these men were so, and her father also, they're all so weird.
The men in any of these
Yeah.
shows.
Okay, let's
Okay,
wait.
wait, I just have a couple of more. So there's Inventing Anna and The Dropout, and We Crashed for WeWorks.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of them are, and also the one based on what's her name, Elizabeth Holmes.
Right.
Yes. So,
That's
yeah. So I think it's because when tech had its heyday in the last century, there were these tech entrepreneurs, evangelists, were acting as if this is the great savior of humanity and civilization, and that everybody's going to get better. What we needed was disruption. Get rid of all of these 20th century businesses and interrupt them and start a new, internet-based society. And we see the results now.
But after social media,
but also, but they were also conning everybody in terms of raising the money and exactly what they were doing. And so, like Elizabeth Holmes and We Crashed are just two of the more flamboyant versions, but they're all like that. Look at Elon Musk.
Can I just say that, like, honestly, watching little bits of all of these different documentaries, which to me are business documentaries in a way. Not so much about con artists as they are about startups and what it's like to raise money and start a business. Like, sent me back to story, because I was just like, okay, this is just the new incarnation of reality TV, because even though it's scripted, it's still supposed to be real, and I'm sick of real, so let me watch Ozark, let me watch Better Call Saul, let me watch Hacks, let me watch, because they're written. And people in writers' rooms right now are getting lots of money, and they're hiring the cream of the cream to write scripted drama, and that shit's great. Like, forget who cares, Although I will say that,
But I've got to say that when the series, whether it's fictional or documentary, comes out about the Whites, that woman who ran away with the guy who was 6'9". I'll be watching. Oh my God.
She shot herself at the end.
And he said, please take care of my wife, the most romantic
I
Okay, what were you gonna say?
I kind of wanted to circle back for a minute, because in the midst of all this messiness with all these things, what was it you didn't like about the chair?
Well, it's not fair. I think I only watched 2 episodes, so maybe that's the problem.
Not fair. That's what my husband does.
Because it is unfortunately exactly what faculty politics look like. And I was wondering whether it's because nobody wants to believe that our universities look exactly like that, or because it wasn't well written.
Oh no, because it's just seemed very dated. It seemed very dated to me, and maybe it's what you just mentioned. Yeah.
Well, I'm fascinated by the idea that all these people are getting back to that. Why these people are fascinating to us. Maybe they've always been, but it seems like Trump and all of those have opened up the doors of
scams in general.
And also we're on the back side of the whole tech business going like this, and now everything, all the stocks, everybody's dumping it. There needs to be something else, and they're all crashing. So there are all these stories to tell too.
And from the point of view of, okay, I'm a network and I want to put on things that people are going to watch, I mean, it's kind of easy, it's easy to say, oh, that would make a good show. Then it's hard to make a good show.
A show about a show.
Here's what I want to know. What do you think? The January 6th committee says that by televising the hearings, when they televise them, they're going to do so in prime time on television. On what television?
Never like that. So
television of 1962.
CNN still gets big ratings in those nights.
They do.
Yeah. And
well, that'll be like the last good thing for CNN.
Yes. Some crazy stuff. This is so 2000. Oh, sorry.
It won't be on Fox News.
Probably not. Maybe they'll viciously cover it. But so 2022 that CNN started CNN Plus and spent over $1 billion on all of the content. And it was literally 10 days. Yes. I mean, well, Zucker was on his way out. It was his.
I'm saying it's just there. But it's very interesting with MSNBC with Rachel Vaughn and these like suddenly holes in the gravitas area.
Exactly. You never know who these people are because they're villains for a villain for a villain.
Yeah, but
they're
they're
constant.
I know.
Some of them look like, I mean, I think that they have pops. Who's this blonde?
Yeah.
I know.
Yes, Jenny.
Well, back to the con artist thing, I understand what Laura means about their business stories, but I also wonder if the fact, I do have watched these shows about the con artists with great interest. The documentaries as well as the movies that are made about them. And I'm wondering whether the con artist is sort of related to the sociopath that we love, I do anyway, sociopathy. And it's maybe not unrelated to how I fall for the Unabomber, the really beautifully acted Unabomber series. That was I did marry the Unabomber. You can go see the Unabomber. It's in a museum. It's so
In the cabin.
the cabin.
Which means.
What was inside? Was it all paper?
Smithsonian, maybe they put it away, but I remember seeing, I didn't see it in person. It's in a, I think the Smithsonian had it on display. Say what?
Well,
No, they actually brought the Unabomber. The Unabomber is one of my favorite shows. Mindhunter.
Oh,
Mindhunter. Love Mindhunter. The serial killers. Love. Beautifully done. Was they didn't no reenactments of the crime. It was just interviewing these famous serial killers. That's all. I don't have anything connected to women, men, or anything to say about it except con artists are, I think, in the same stream for me as anything.
But you want
to window into the powder line.
Yes, I did.
And now with social media, these people can be everywhere and influence people for the first time.
Well, and I think I'll go back to Trump. We're fascinated. We want to go. We want like. I mean, not that we. Yeah. How did it happen? How did
It's still happening.
It's still happening, and we can't figure it out. And so maybe like you, Jenny, you want to like figure out how does something in mind like Trump's work because so we can guard against it or what?
Yeah, one man comes along and changes our country for generations. And
It was all there.
we're all in the
The trajectory of how he got involved with this stuff and the initial the kid who went to Buffalo and killed over.
And these violent white supremacists.
This take back the country for the white folks.
And it became absolutely out loud white supremacism. And that was all part of it. And the other thing about that kid who in Buffalo is he was wearing complete body armor so that they couldn't get him. So a guard who didn't have body armor couldn't get him. Now only these militias who are meeting each other online are getting, like January 6 people are getting full body armor and all the weapons they want. It's a little army. Yeah.
Let's talk about who's really spreading this replacement theory so powerfully. Let's talk about Tucker Carlson, Fox News, and the impact that Fox News has had. Screw Trump. Fox News has been doing this for decades.
Yes.
But never this powerfully.
Degradation of the political discourse and the fact that we're living in two different realities in this country. Reading the Wall Street Journal this week, which I don't read very often, but I am a subscriber to work. And there was an article from that editorial writer, Kimberly Strassel. She's horrendous. Very, very right wing. And I started to read the comments, and somebody actually said something about we need, and okay, sorry, this is getting political, but we need Trump, we need Trump back because he did so much for the country.
And Joe Biden is not a patriot.
But they didn't mention Biden, but they said something about him, if only Trump were here, flood of people coming
Jumping
back
in.
after me. And I just, you know, I left. But look, there's
But
the fact that we're living in two different worlds. I think I come from media too.
Yeah.
Maybe how we know each other. But the damage that's been done.
Absolutely.
And you see it in
the old days, you know, when I was on television everywhere, media horror, I was on Fox a couple of times, and there were normal news shows where I got normal questions.
Chris Roberts, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, and now when you hear these real outlandish theories that you can't believe, but everybody is spouting, it's because it was on Fox that day.
That's right.
And they all come from some cute hole. And also, yes, Trump allowed, the very first day he was there, he allowed Russian press into the Oval Office and not Americans. I mean, he did Putin's bidding. So for them to say the world would be so much better now if Trump were still here, yes, he would hand over everything to Putin, and he has the exact same MO.
But you know what? There's no shared values. I was listening to Giuliani interviewed about why he would testify, saying that the committee wouldn't let him record by video his testimony. And they said, well, we'll make a recording for you and you can take it away. And Giuliani is saying to whoever was questioning him, well, these are the people who, you know, were trying to like overthrow the Trump administration. Why would I trust them to make? But it's like if there's nothing that's the good and the real and the right.
And they turn themselves over. They admit to things by doing this.
But all of the little people who say, yeah, I'm with you, we've been fucked.
But does anyone really, even on the right, still believe in Giuliani? I mean, he's such a clown with his hands like hands.
People like camouflage.
He's irrelevant.
Let me ask you
There's
about,
no consistency.
interesting back to what I understand that the major change is when there was a law, it was in the 80s.
Fairness doctrine.
Yeah, where that they didn't have to give equal, they had to, until then.
If you had a over-the-air television station in those days, that's what most of it was, you had to show both sides of a debate. So if you showed a conservative documentary, you had to show a
But that changed, right? Didn't that change?
Reagan got rid of it.
What?
Reagan got rid of it. Let it expire.
Okay, so
Right.
is that a change?
Yeah, and Reagan actually started a lot of this.
Yeah.
Reagan actually started a lot
Yeah,
of this.
Reagan
Definitely.
So the seeds were sown.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So let's get back.
But then it's generations of people who have no work, whose family used to have high-paying work in factories, and so now they're just on. I mean, it's a huge stereotype, but they're just on meth and stuff and have terrible drug problems, and they can't stay employed, and they don't have any money, and they're really angry that other people are doing better than them.
You can't bring the fairness doctrine back because you can't regulate cable programming.
I see. Okay.
It's only over the air.
Okay.
But then is there something to all of this, seeing all of these con artists, wherever you turn, making somebody go, well, that's a good thing. I think that's my next path in life.
There is grudging admiration.
Yes.
People believe in comment and confidence stuff because essentially they want to believe that people are trustworthy. I mean, it really is like the most extreme betrayal of the trust that most people like want to assume exists.
Well, in the old days, I remember a college professor saying that, you know, for people who do the like 3-card Monte and everything, they want really educated people because those people don't wash their hands. They're listening to the pattern. But I'm not sure that's true anymore about educated people because they're not going through the keyhole. So.
Well, let's get. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I was just thinking about the whole conversation, especially about the programs. And I haven't seen a lot of them, but it sounds like every single one of them is negative. I'm not going to suggest we all watch the Hallmark Channel, but you know, it's all, and I think it has a huge effect on our culture. Everything is bad. My most body.
Well, I think it might have something to do with my depressive choices here.
Well, you know, Ted Lasso.
But I will say, there are shows that were wonderful, like Love on the Spectrum on Netflix. Has anyone seen that? Oh, it's Australian, and they interview actual families who have kids who are in their early 20s and want to date, and they're on the spectrum, and it's very, very difficult for them. And these families are so loving and supportive, and they show some of the actual dates, and it just is so enlightening about, you know, how hard it is to communicate and how hard it is to sit there and take it all in. So in the end, I think that's a positive message about, you know, understanding people more. And so are some of the other documentaries, I think.
I've heard of like younger people, so they're just not having fun. And I think what you're saying, she's saying is that there's just not a lot of fun.
Well, I think for the past 2.5 years, there hasn't been a lot of fun. Yeah.
But you think it'd be more escapism.
Yeah.
As we refer to it.
Well, I think that's a good story
that's involved in.
Yeah.
Even if it's sad or frightening or if it's real, is engaging and is, that's my kind of.
Yes,
No,
me too.
I
But
think
also
it's fun
there's
to
a
watch, but it
there's-
there's
a big sci-fi component that a whole younger generation is enjoying. And those are stories where people have real power and also, you know, succeed.
The Mandalorian, I watch that with my boys, and also Expanse. So I watch, my boys are watching, I want to watch it too, so I can talk to them about it, even if it's not my genre. But so yeah, some of those Expanse and everybody's.
And they're not all dystopian.
They're not
or adventure-y.
It's because they've been playing video games their whole lives, and they're used to these characters, and they like to make stories out of these characters.
What do you make? I mean, talk about negativity. So, like, I do love Succession.
Oh yes,
There's not one person I like in Succession, but I can't stop watching it. Billions, I did stop watching. I thought it was because there wasn't one person I liked in it, but I do think Succession is broke. I used to think I can't watch a show where I don't like anybody in it. Succession showed me that that's not true. The writing is what?
It's a thing.
And also
is that what it is?
there are shreds of moments. Yeah, there are shreds of moments that you can see the humanity in each of them trying to get out occasionally, but then it turns over. But I think the idea of, you know, how bad it is to live in a family that's that rich and powerful, like the Murdoch family, how you wouldn't want it, is great tonic too.
But at the same time, admiring the apartments in the house.
Okay, can we just talk about one of the things I like? I like Outlander because
Adventure.
No, sex. And we wrote about it because it was somebody, I read something that the reason people, like women my age group, like it so much is because it's made for the female gaze. It's sex made for the female gaze. So I was going to ask,
Oh, I haven't heard of it.
you haven't watched it? Okay, watch season 1, episode 7.
Okay.
You have that.
The female gaze. So how is that different than?
Oh, yeah, the female gaze is because we get to enjoy the man of his body and it's, you know, it's so loving sex. It's not, you know, so it's a different whole approach to sex. It's like sex that most women would fantasize about.
I usually like anything time travel related.
Have you watched Time Travel as well?
Oh, that's such a
Not yet.
It's
today.
I think so.
It's
I'm
out, yes,
hearing about great things about being a lawyer.
That's good. Like a lawyer? Is that right? You know about that?
I'm hearing good things. I don't know if it's not narrative, but
Well, we are getting towards the end, and we've covered so much more. We've covered entertainment. We've gone into politics because it's all connected. There is, I mean, you can almost, in our society today, just like in your piece, what I loved so much about your piece about Kim Kardashian and the Marilyn Monroe stuff is like, I mean, it gives me chills because all this, everybody's cavorting and everything. At the same time, the leak from the Supreme Court was out. As this was all happening, it's like, it was like, oh my God, our frivolous society on one side, and then just we're all paying attention to that. Right. And the other stuff we're not paying attention to. And so.
Right, and then the problem is, what can we do about it? Because it's so oppressive.
And what she tries to presage the whole controversy about their lending that dress to her in the first place. Because I think your column kind of presaged the whole controversy about their lending that dress in the first place.
Well, I added something at the end. I don't know what you read.
Did I read that? I mean,
yes, about that. That's the ultimate irony that. She wanted to make a big splash at this museum, so she did exactly what the opposite of what the fundraiser is for. The fundraiser ostensibly is for the Costume Institute, which keeps its preservation and collection. And instead, all of these curators came out and said, no human being, no celebrity or anyone should be wearing these clothes because the materials fall apart and you can't get them again.
Well, of course, it was a Ripley's.
Yes. And I love when you add the thing about the hole at the bottom.
Oh, yeah, over her
And then there was the other controversy that maybe, like, talk about your side issue, of, well, this, her standing up and talking about the fact that she starved herself into that, so sending a negative message to women about their bodies and not being proud of them. So I'm just like, no, wait. Like, there's so many other things to pay attention to here,
Well, that's why I said she was, a car crash of this stuff, because there's so much happening in that one performance.
And I wonder if it's more like how younger women feel about seeing that, or is it women our age who get upset because we were not that maybe we weren't aware in 1962 that Maryland's, we weren't probably there. I mean, or old enough then to understand, but we've always heard about that, and it has a special place in our cultural memory.
And also, the assassination of JFK.
And I think you have to have that viscerally in some way.
Yeah, to have any kind of sensitivity. The other thing about younger women is that Kim has a huge following.
Oh my gosh.
And people love her on the show. And I haven't watched it in years, but it was really mostly about taking care of your pubic area.
David Ramsey, I heard him talking about this. He said all of us that they're losing their phones and trying to find their phones.
It was like pubic hygiene.
Oh God, there isn't enough about that.
We're starting a column about that. You did not tell you that.
And it was really from, I think I learned this from it was from mother.
Yes, Mama Joe. Yes.
Oh my God.
I think it was obviously, I don't know if she knew about it because it just seems like, that's
and
great.
She leaked it for publicity purposes?
Yes. And because it showed Kim's talents.
Oh,
well, she was pitted against Paris Hilton at the time. Kim Kardashian and Paris Hilton. Paris released her sex tape, so Kim had to.
Of her own volition.
And then there's the sad Kardashian. Her father was not Kardashian. Her father was someone else, Chloe, and she's completely Frankenstein.
O.J. Simpson, maybe.
She's Frankenstein. It was her hairdresser. She looks like her. But Frankenstein herself, and she has this weird commercial for some pharmaceutical with her daughter in it, and it looks like they're really high, kind of. It's so strange.
Okay, but we're gonna have to end on the Kardashians. No, we can't end on the Kardashians. Let's end on.
I have a question. And on board, there's a great show about women. And Jenny's daughter wrote the best episode in it, and it's called Roar. It's really ROAR.
But what's it about?
And it's worth checking out.
Well, you've seen more. I just watched my kids' episode. I watched the others.
And it's very sort of super real, and
what's the basis?
It's each one is a separate story.
It's a feminist mythology from a feminist perspective.
Okay.
Yes.
And your daughter wrote
She
one.
wrote one. They're all based on a book of stories
Yes.
by one.
By a
young
really
woman
good
writer.
fiction writer, yeah.
Oh my gosh, okay, that's.
But it's a much younger sensibility.
Okay.
Nicole Kidman is in one of them.
Yeah,
She is
of course.
one of the producers.
Yes.
I know.
She's in
everything, yes.
She's one of the producers.
So this is a happy woman story.
Okay.
Yeah, that is a good one.
Yay.
Well, you were gonna ask.
You have a question?
I don't understand, and maybe you can clarify this. It's Fox, it's a network though, right? It's
Yeah.
not, so why don't they have to,
Fox News is cable.
oh,
Fox
I
has
see.
television
Oh,
stations.
so that's interesting. I didn't
Fox
realize
is
that.
Fox does over the air television stations. that
I
do
see.
Are.
And they show The Simpsons, which is really liberal.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what the fairness document is. Okay,
Yeah,
I see. I've always wondered about that.
I'm gonna just say goodbye to our live streaming audience and then we can continue.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Can you post the feed? Do you have it?
Oh, and they had only since it's.
Is it off?